How's it going? I know it's been a while since my last/first vid. It's only been like 7 months. Yeesh. Well, I'm back. So, what shall I inflict upon the interwebs today? How about my rambles about a show that's been effectively dead for years now? Why? Guess how many times this word will pop up. One, because it's Playmobil. Two, because I said way back in the yesteryear of 2019 that I was making a reboot thing. And three, because I said so. Only it's taking way, way, way more work than I thought. That's why you hire a team for this, people. But I can't, so I won't. For those of you who don't know, Super 4 was this Playmobil-inspired show that had several colorful themes and characters sharing a world and interacting with one another. 5 islands with a representative from each formed the title group called Super 4. Plus mascot. Yeah, the math doesn't add up. The initial run did decent. The cast was fun and the premise was cool. But soon it dropped in quality, especially the writing and the copy and paste of characters and other stuff. And then it just essentially faded away like mist at sunrise. Which is sad. You can't even watch the episodes outside of very specific streaming services. Forget it if you're American. Its main site is finally gone. Outside of a few articles and fan art, there's very little evidence the show even existed. It's pretty much lost. Except it isn't, because on the wonderful website Internet Archive, some glorious person uploaded most of the whole series, except for like 2, maybe 1 episodes by now. I will post a link to the Internet Archives in my description. So, yay! So I know what you're thinking. Big deal, right? Like, dude, it was a kid's show made to sell toys. It's not that deep, fam. And like, yeah, but the idea. Super 4 could've, should've been great. By premise alone. You have all these cool things. You've got knights, you got pirates, you got fairies, you got dragons, aliens, scientists. All these cool things just mingling together. The encounters could have been epic. I mean, we're talking about like hardcore world building. It could have been awesome. It could have been like some 90s-esque kind of escapades going on. Like, it could have. I mean, just because something's marketed for kids doesn't mean it can't be great. I mean, look at all the memorable shows for kids that came out in the last few decades. You got He-Man, She-Ra, Princess Tutu, Avatar The Last Airbender, all the Golden Age Cartoon Network shows, 90s Nickelodeon, Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Transformers, which was also meant to sell toys, and look how that went. TMNT, a premise that honestly should not have gotten off the ground as well as it should have. I mean, you have a bunch of mutant turtle humanoids raised by a rat humanoid, learning kung fu in the sewers of New York City and eating pizza and fighting this giant rhino and pig thing and a living cheese grater called Shredder. It honestly should not have gotten past the original comic run, and yet it had like so many different reboots. And then there's My Little Pony. That also did really good. Like, really, really good. And that had several things. So, I mean, there's no excuse. I personally hate the notion that people say just because it was a kid's show, you're not supposed to think about it too hard. It's meant for kids. And it's funny when these same people go and talk about how kids shows are dumb, but whatever. Yeah, kids are deserving of decent writing and fun action scenes too. But one of the reasons why these shows last so long and have such a devoted following is not just because the idea was awesome, but because the execution was well done and they actually injected decent story writing in there for kids to enjoy, and even adults to enjoy as well. And I feel like that's what was missing from Super 4 at some point. Luckily, Playmobil seems to have gotten a bit better with their newer series called Novelmore. It at least looks better, and it seems to be like the spiritual successor of Super 4, and applaud Playmobil because they don't exactly have the best run of making animated stuff, but Novelmore seems to be much better. And it is pretty darn entertaining. But man, it still sucks that the same treatment wasn't given to Super 4. I'm not sure why it was the way it was. It could have been finances, setbacks, maybe it was time crunch, maybe it was mismanagement, executive interference, which very well could have been it, marketing in general, or just maybe a lack of care. I don't know. And I'm not blaming the true creators of the show, Method Animation and Morgan Studios. All I'm saying is there was most likely some kind of interference going on in the background. Perhaps some higher ups didn't think the show was going to make too much money, so at some point they just cut it off. But the potential, I feel, was immense. And I guess that's why I've clung to this project for so long. Because I still see a truly amazing story that could be told. Maybe some of the original artists felt that way too, because they made some really cool concept art. There's one artist in particular that I really like, Florenci Jerome. Is French, I cannot pronounce that. But he or she actually made some really cool artwork for like the backgrounds and all of that. And the details are just so pretty, and it actually makes me wish that the show was hand drawn. Seeing original like pitches and maquettes and the original look of the show, Ruby actually looked really cute. And it's just apparently they had like this base of where Jean's inventions was like in this pirate ship on Gunpowder Island, and it was pretty cool. And that was never brought to fruition. There was more concept art that if you pay attention to the end credits of the show, you can actually see like the original, what looks to be the original form of Alex and King Kendrick, and he had like this scepter with normal human fingers on it. So like he could emote with that human hand. That was pretty cool. You also see like the Fairy Queen and Dr. X, who had this cool goggles and I think gloves. I actually made a redesign with that, I think, with the gloves. And that leads me to this point. It's kind of funny. I wasn't even setting out to redo the whole show or anything. I initially just wanted to tighten up the writing. Because like for example, with Twinkle's backstory kind of kept changing, was inconsistent of why exactly she turned the queen into a frog. It was a mistake for sure, but it's like it kept going back and forth, and just like plot holes and all that. I'm like, I'll just tidy it, just tighten it up a little bit, just a tiny bit. I started changing the characters' clothes, and then I started writing the backstories and full-on histories and cultures of the islands. Then I started changing names and making locations and actually writing maps. And well, would you look at that? I have effectively created a whole new show with this same kind of premise. I'm not even going to call it by the same name anymore. It's pretty different. Plus, I don't want to get sued. But like, I couldn't help it. My muse is a wild dog. It's like, I try to start simple, but then it's like, oh, this, but that. How about this? Let's add this. And then it just completely mutates into a completely different beast. Normally I'd move on, but this whole venture has possessed my soul and refused to let go. And I'm not even sure why. Maybe it's the toy sets. Yeah, that's probably it. but seriously, it has to be the toy sets because it's funny. I wasn't even interested in Super 4, but I remember when the show first came out, I was like, oh gosh, here we go. They look ugly. Like, why are their eyes like that? This is not classic Playmobil. What is this heathenry? But then I started watching the episodes, and then I'm like, crap, I'm hooked. And then I got the whole first wave of the sets and a little bit of the second wave. I would have bought that Fairy Queen chair. I would personally commission Playmobil to make that Fairy Queen chair. I would love to collect Babacara. I would absolutely buy Kingsland Castle. I already got like a bunch of other Playmobil castles. I so would have gotten that. Oh my gosh, I so would have done. I'm so surprised they never made the witches. But anyway. Yeah, but seriously, I actually learned so much by looking at the concept art and storyboards, etc., that the artists made. Like, going around and managing to find the ones that are still around and looking at that, it's like, wow. It's like I kind of get a better understanding of what's going on and the amount of care and attention that even in projects that probably won't take off the ground too much all the care and attention that goes into that. It's like you really do put your heart and soul in your work with this kind of thing, because I guess you never know if it's gonna be a flop or not. And it makes me better understand and appreciate what people like this do. But in the very unlikely off chance that any of the people who worked on this show are somehow watching this video and listening to my voice, I salute you for your hard work. I have no idea what it was like to work on this show with the people you were working on. Maybe it was awesome, maybe it wasn't. I just want to say I do appreciate your work. Like, obviously I know what concept art is, I know what storyboards are, but like working alongside it, like actually making my own stuff and trying to see like what makes it look decent, what makes it more presentable, and like how to plan this stuff out. Because one of the reasons why it's taking me forever is because I keep getting led astray by ideas, and it's like, is this good? Is that good? I guess that's why you have other people with you to help bounce off this kind of thing. But it's just me, just little old me. Now, with all that said, where do we go from here? Well, this video was supposed to serve as an icebreaker for a new series that I have planned to post on YouTube. It was supposed to be a showcase of my world building for the remake of this series, but as I was working on it and continuing with this process, it doesn't feel right to call it a remake anymore, because everything has changed. The characters have changed, their personalities have changed, their relationship dynamics have changed. Alien and his race have a culture now. Everything is so much different than its original run. These really aren't the same people from when I started. And who knows, maybe as I continue to work on my project, it'll be free of its Super 4 ties altogether, and be able to stand on its own feet as its own independent story. I just hope that, in the case of where that does happen, that you all will still be on board with my project, and hopefully will be able to enjoy it as is. But we can't know for sure until we start. So I hope that you will all join me on this adventure as I show you my own thought process and rambles of how things are going to be. Where I go over each and every island, some characters, some extra stuff, and all kinds of other stuff to help pad out this world and make it more interesting and fleshed out. And first up on the list, Midavalia. Or should I say, Midalterland. First of all, I'd like to thank God for my talent and for giving me the strength to get up and make this video, because holy crud, I severely underestimated all the amount of time that goes into editing these. I want to apologize to all my favorite YouTubers for mentally complaining about how long it takes for one of these videos to come out, because oh my gosh, it's a lot of work. And I'd also like to thank my mom for all the support that she gives me, and for putting up with my nonsense and just supporting me in general. Like, thank you so much, Mom, for everything, and I love you very much. I'd also like to take the time to shout out to a wonderful person. They have many nicknames, I can't even figure out who it is, but I call them Sharky. They are awesome, and I wouldn't have been able to get all the information and photos that I could if it weren't for them, because evidently they're in the UK and they were able to have all access to all of these sources that I, as a puny American, cannot. So thank you so much. I'd also like to shout out to all my friends and compatriots on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr, who are also fans of the series, and just for having fun and for having amazing artwork. Please go check each and every one of them out. All these beautiful, beautiful people who made such fabulous artwork, who put up with my Super 4 challenges over on Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr, who kept showing such interest in my work overall. Just the sweetest people. I'm so grateful for each and every one of them. Sadly, I can't grab all of them at once, but you know who you are, and hopefully I'll be able to shout you out in the next video. Also, some remakes of their own, huh? Those will be in the description too. Please check out that as well.